The father in film avoids conflicts with mother and chooses to stay silent instead of protecting his daughters. And silence actually makes him a part of the mother's behavior, so he becomes a conflict. I think he is not innocent just because he is quiet. His silence also harm their children too.
Family, food, and chaos. Appetite for Destruction is a film that blends all three. It's about family dynamics, overbearing mothers, rebellious kids, and how food can both bring people together and drive them apart. Rawy Films is hosting a pop-up screening of Appetite for Destruction along with 3 other films on November 9th in Berlin. Follow at Rawy Films or visit rawyfilms.com for all the details. In this episode, I speak with Zehra, the film's director, and Baran, her co-producer. We talk about the deeply personal nature of the story for Zehra and how Baran worked closely with the cast to help them find a sense of character ownership that brought the story to life. Please enjoy my conversation with Zehra and Baran.
Hi, Zehra and Baran. Welcome to Rawy Talks. Let me start first with an introduction. Can you please both introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Zehra Eda Sert. I recently graduated from Bilgi University, Cinema and TV program. I shoot a film while I graduating named Appetite for Destruction. That was my first professional movie and I directed it, I write it. Also, I am one of the producers.
Hi, my name is Salih Baran Ürdem and I'm visual designer and producer in this film. I make the intro and outro visuals and movie posters and
That's very
production process.
Very nice. There's a lot of creative choices made in this film, and I'm very curious about the story, obviously. So I want to start first with how you developed the story, and I wanted to also talk about the people that were involved in the development, from an idea of a film to a story to an actual film. So let me start first with the story, and like you can introduce what Appetite for Destruction, how is this whole story came about, or basically what it is about. And then we'll move on to the people behind the scenes.
This story was very personal, as the film itself shows, but at the same time, I think it reflects something more general about middle-class families in traditional and diverse societies like Turkey. I am not saying that this particular family directly represents a whole part of community, but there are many families with similar communication issues, similar family dynamics, and similar untold stories. I wanted to tell a story about real people. I don't want my characters became perfect or flawless. I wanted them to made the same mistakes as we do in our lives, carry some negative emotions inside of them like anger, sadness, or jealousy. I also wanted to show how psychological issues, mental problems, or traumas can transfer from a generation to the next one. How unhealthy behaviors in parenting can turn into a destructive cycle when the child grows up and repeats the same patterns as an adult like their parents. In the story, the mother shows a very narcissistic personality. She is often very aggressive, dominant, even destructive, but nobody in this family, I think, is innocent. And that's why the destructive cycle continues. In early drafts, I even thought about naming the film Ouroboros, referring to the snake who eats its own tail, for symbolizing the destructive cycle. Hurts itself also hurts another. Later I changed the title to Appetite for Destruction for suits the narrative better. I wrote the script entirely by myself, but Baran was always there whenever I got stuck with the script. We spent hours on the phone brainstorming ideas, and his support very important for me because he helped me to story forward.
Hmm.
But maybe you would like to tell about how the story became this version from the idea.
One day we were together. Zehra was unsure about what kind of story she wanted to tell for her graduation film. We spent a long time brainstorming ideas and themes. I told her that a story coming from her own experiences and her own struggles would be the most sincere and powerful story. And that was the first step of the idea. And we had a long conversation about family issues, dynamics between people living in dysfunctional family and topics like that. After deciding on the main topic of the film, we paid close attention to make sure that every character and every element and every detail supported the same theme and narrative as a whole. As a first-time producer, that kind of process gave me a wide scale of production design perspectives.
That's really awesome. So basically, it's kind of like the collaboration between the two of you. And is the first project you've worked on together, or have you worked on something together before?
Yes, also it is our first project by ourselves,
Yeah,
together individually. First one.
that's very cool. Baran, did you also study film, or are you not into the film industry?
That's a great question. I'm not studied cinema or something like that. I'm engineer actually, but I don't want to do that. And I tried some other ways to live, like designing, and now the producing is one of them. It's
Well, I think you would find it funny to know that most people that work in film have never really studied film. Everyone has studied something else. Okay. I will move on a little bit more from just the idea, and I want to talk a little bit about the execution. The film is very intense. For a 20-minute film, it was very, very intense. Watching it, the way
Thank
the
you.
food was presented, the way the actors were eating, the conversation getting more intense. And then you also see there's four characters in this film. There's the little sister who basically from anxiety or from stress, she scratches her body, and you can see the scratching getting more and more intense as the film goes. Can you speak about that kind of progression, and how do you incorporate something like that in a script? Because a script is usually just text or people talking to each other. But getting that creative element, an element of unspoken words being almost very important in a film, I wanted to ask you first about that choice.
This story is about both mental health issues, mental health struggles. Also, it's about eating disorders. The mother puts a lot of pressure on both of her daughters about their weight and eating habits. The way each character eats at the table actually reveals who they are. The older sister, for example, she overeats when she's stressed. The younger one doesn't even touch the plate. The father eats silently without getting involved in anything on the table. The mother prepared the meal. She's also in control of everything. What she chooses to serve to her family, I think, says a lot of things about her personality. Everything on the table mattered. So for me, building the narrative around the table felt like the most natural way to support the story. We want the table to feel raw and primal. We intentionally added some red tones with beet and of course the red meat. To create this look, we used beet juice and fake blood for the meat sauce. At the same time, we wanted the meat serve the same purpose as Ilgun's wound. Her eczema caused by stress got worse through the dinner, like you said, becoming irritated and started bleeding as the tension rise on the table. But everyone at the table was too busy with their own issues and problems to notice, or maybe they doesn't even care wounds. Symbolically, Ilgun's wounds represent the tragic state of this family. No one sees the wounds because everyone ignores the problem what they had. So, in short, dinner table, the food, and the wounds of Ilgun were all shaped in early stage of writing because we thought writing those kind of details is very important to production stage.
Right, right. Were you going to say something there?
We want to make unified narrative with all these elements.
I understand. So I find that, I mean, I think that's really interesting that you're saying that these choices for the food, for the color, for the wounds, were all part of like the initial story. So this is not something that someone can basically decide late stage into the production or late stage when they're already filming. It's a lot of these creative choices you have to make in the beginning of the film in order to establish a very strong story that makes sense and its progression makes sense as well. And that kind of takes me to another aspect of the film, which is character development. And your characters are so well developed. And for a short film, sometimes directors and filmmakers, they struggle to give each character its weight. They struggle to have a very defined character for each person in the film. But you have four different characters in this film, and each one is so specific and it's so singular. And I wanted to ask you about casting, and I wanted to also ask you about character development. How do you write characters this way? Do you write them in terms of like having a backstory for each one of them, or do you just kind of say this is the profile that I want? And then also talk to me about casting for this film. You've cast some really good talent, so I wanted to also know your approach.
Like I said, for the first question, this movie is a little too personal. So characters, realism maybe comes from that. I really thought about every character, every move of every character, and every character's backstory very detailedly. And for the casting questions, I'm really happy about my cast. They are all very talented and experienced actors. I'm really happy to work with them. And when I was doing casting, unlike my actors, I was not very experienced. I was still a student who doesn't know anyone from the industry. And so I talked everyone around me for finding right people for the roles. Baran did the same. We got some suggestions after we sent scripts to people. Then we meet with them, did auditions, did reading rehearsals. Then we choose the right actors for the roles. I feel we choose the perfect actors for each role.
And I decided that communication within team would be always come first. Because, if we have any trouble in that process, we can solve that trouble with communication. And this principle also guided us to casting process. It became the main criterion when choosing our actors. We received wonderful suggestions from people around us who fit the characters we had imagined, because the story moves beyond a classical narrative and explores a very specific emotional struggle. It was especially important for the actors to connect deeply with script and internalize their characters. From early meetings, each of them built sincere connection with both story and their roles. They transformed characters from words on paper into living and breathing people. And
Mm.
for me, the most beautiful part of this process was witnessing how each actor found something personal within their character. Sharing those emotions on set and created a powerful sense of unity and relaxes us as well. It truly felt like we are creating something meaningful together.
Honestly, that's very nice to hear. I'll fast forward a little bit and talk about the ending. The ending of the movie was really satisfying, even though there was no resolution. Like you usually would wait for the film so that the person that you labeled as a villain, which in the story would be the mother, you'd think that something would happen to her, or like, they would like rebel against her or something. But you don't really see that in the film. You see that, everyone goes exactly as they go in real life, which is the mother stays the mother, she stays the villain, she is who she is, and the characters also stay in their own lanes. No one's paying attention to the younger kid, and even the more rebellious daughter, or the one that had more character, she folds and she basically just lets her mom do whatever she wants to do. Can you talk about why you made that decision? Did you want it to be that realistic?
The events in this film, both the dinner and the ending, are not specific for that particular night. What we see is simply a representation of how this family acts when they became together. I wanted to mother to get what she wants at the end, because with this way the destructive cycle could continue. It
Hmm.
also felt natural that the mother gets what she wants, because the only one who really tries to stand up for her is the older daughter, like you said. But she is not exactly the someone who can stand on her own as an individual. She goes against her mother because she not because she is ready to fight with her. Actually, she is just simply resist her like a child. And yes, the mother gets what she wants at the end, but I couldn't call it a victory for her. Deep down, I think she knows that too. By forcing things to happen the way that she wants, may look like she's in control and she won that fight, but actually, I think she is taking another step far away from her daughters and her family.
I see. I see. That makes sense. What about the father? So the role of the father in the film is almost non-existent. I mean, that's the character development aspect of the film that you decided to skip. You just said he's gonna be sitting on the table not doing anything. But I think it was also really interesting. You don't really see the role of the father in that sense in, Swana films or Middle Eastern films. I'm Egyptian, for example. You would never see that role of the father in a film like that. So I'm just like I'm very intrigued by that choice.
We can say in Turkey, family dynamics can be very different depending the social class or whether the mother works or not. In many middle class families where both parents work, the father is not always the strict authority figure we usually see in our country too. So this type of father is not common, but this type of father is not unheard of too. But it's still different from the typical father figure we usually see in our country, Turkey too. When I
Hmm.
was developing the father character, I created a dynamic between a narcissistic mother and a more passive and borderline father. I also thought about how these two interact and how these two became stay together in a marriage, and how this kind of relation affects on their kids, their children. The father in film avoids conflicts with mother and chooses to stay silent instead of protecting his daughters, and silence actually makes him a part of the mother's behavior, so he becomes a conflict.
Hmm.
I think he is not innocent just because he is quiet. His silence also harm their children too.
It's honestly like again, like I keep telling you about how beautiful the character developments are, and just like the way you engineered this film was also like really, really impressive. Okay, another aspect of the film that I thought was really interesting was the queer aspect of the film, and it was really interesting because it's not on the nose. You don't really, you're not trying to make any big statements with it. Even if the older sister, she makes that kind of the statement saying like, I could have walked in with a man who looks exactly like that, or basically has the same age and like the same shape and everything, and you would still have a problem with them. So it really is to amplify this idea that a lot of the social constructs that parents sometimes put together are just pseudo constructs, that none of them are actually rooted in any strong convictions. It's not about convictions. They just sometimes want whatever the image they want in their head, but it's not really anything else. So I want you to speak about that, the queer aspect of the film, also like that kind of statement that this character gives in the film.
As a queer filmmaker, for me, representation is very important. In this film, I don't want to underline it in heavy or dramatical way.
Mm.
In Turkey, even though we have a very diverse society, sometimes queer relationships are still judged or seen as unusual by some people in many places. So I wanted to show a queer relationship simply as a normal part of life, not something that needs to be explained or justified. When the older daughter says, I could have walked in with a man and you did still have the same problem with it. She already knows that the problem is not about her girlfriend. The mother is angry because she was not in control of the situation. The older daughter brought home someone for her sister's dinner party without telling her mother, and that alone is enough for the mother to react. From a character perspective in the script, the mother cannot build a healthy relationship with her daughters, especially the older one, and she becomes jealous of the care and attention the girlfriend gave her daughter. Even though Ege has some issues with how she reacts in her relationship, her girlfriend is very caring and gentle towards to her, kind towards to her. She is also the only person who brings a gift for the younger sister Ilgun. The mother Seçil turns even this small moment of kindness, this act of kindness, to a competition. So queer element was important for me because it shows how the mother's destructive behavior goes beyond traditions and culture. It's about control, jealousy, and fear of not being in the center of attention.
Yeah.
In this film, we are not telling about identity or something like that. It's just about mother's control. Mother always want to be core in family and center of the family. It's not about identity. That's why queer elements stay a little bit low, because mother is always
In the center.
yeah, in the center
Of attention. At least she wanted to be in the center of the attention
yeah.
in the movie.
Yeah, that was very evident by her behavior. This was a really lovely conversation. I really appreciate having a conversation with both of you. I wanted you to talk to people how they can watch the film, and I want to talk about any festivals that you participated in, or screenings, or any of that, if you wanted to promote it in any way. So please go ahead.
Yeah, our film is currently being screened at the festivals and events where it has been selected. It's also shown at private screenings that we mostly organize in Istanbul. Next year, we plan to hold screenings in different cities across Turkey. Since the film is currently in its festival run, we're not able to share it online yet. However, once the festival process is completed, we plan it publicly available for everyone to watch. At the same time, our festival journey is still continuing, and we are waiting for the results from several other festivals. And so far, it has competed as a finalist at 32nd Adana Golden Ball Film Festival, first International Kısaca Film Festival. And now we are very happy to be here with you and this wonderful event. This event is very special for us. Since our film is first film, the whole process has been very exciting for us, and being part of one of biggest festivals in Adana was very proud moment. It's really rewarding to see our efforts being recognized and very excited about the upcoming festivals.
Very cool. Okay, can you tell me your next project, Zehra? We can't wait.
Right now, I have completed my second short film's first draft. Devlerden korkmuyorum. I'm not scared of giants. Since this film was my graduation project, I had to work under some time limitations. This time I want to fully develop the project, get as much support as it gets, and give the story the time and space it deserves and it needs.
Mm.
That's why we are preparing to apply for funding and script labs. Even though this project is different than Appetite for Destruction, it is again a family story about a 7-year-old girl and her single mother. A strange event that changed their relationships, actually. I want to see this short movie as a strong step toward to my first feature-length movie.
Mm.
Because their story will continue in a feature-length version of this film. I'm very excited for it. Filmmaking is not just a career for me. It's a way to understand the world, the others, and understand myself, express who I am, and I want to keep creating films that are bold, emotional, and meaningful for all my life.
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. What about you, Baran? Idea? What's coming next?
Yeah, we are talking about the other film and working together with as a producer with other directors' film.
Also script advisor for
Yeah.
me.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, this seems to be like a very good working relationship. So continue to contribute and collaborate with each other. Yeah.
You're very glad that you like the film and your lovely comments on the film.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate this conversation, and please keep us posted on your next project.
Thank you.
This was our conversation with Zehra and her co-producer Baran on their film Appetite for Destruction. We are hosting a screening for the film November 9th in Berlin. Please follow us on Instagram at Rawy Films, or you can check our website rawyfilms.com for other details. I'm your host Hazem Madbouly. This was another episode of Rawy Talks. Rawy Talks is produced by Rawy Films, graphic design by Omar Rifat, music by El Mokh, titled Hayl Ashgar. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.